why didn't they just appropriate the money and have some bureaucrat figure out and issue grants? And the question is, a couple of states have done that and it was a disaster. States have not been at all good at picking companies that will be successful. And so this is both a way to get the expertise of people who have experience, but also who have their own money at risk. And so there are now, I think, 20 or 21 states that have angel credits, and it has proved to be the most efficient and effective way to catalyze investment within a state and create real jobs.
Well, it ended up with $240 million.
You end up with $58.9 million out of $240 million. So I love the leverage, but the real thing is the decision making. And people tend to make good decisions when their own money's at risk.
Well, one of the things that really needs to be kept in context, this bill, like any bill, this was my first experience with the bill in the legislature, is not a perfect creature. What is ideal in one person's eyes is definitely not ideal in another person's eyes. But the legislature's second about this, and this is trouble, this is personal perspective, was the potential ability to create a lot of jobs that were relatively high paid in the technology sector or sectors where we could create some competitive advantage and really fuel a long-term energetic economy for Minnesota. From an economic perspective, from an investor, and we looked at what the legislature was looking for. What we looked at was what other states were doing and what states we were losing businesses to and technologies to and people to. And 25% was a pretty good number relative to the enormous range. And they ran as low as 15% and as high as 100%. But the vast majority were bracketed in that 25 to 30%. So as you think about the bill, as you find things in it you don't like, and I guarantee you will if you haven't read it, even those of us that were involved in it have things we don't like. Remember, this is a result of compromise, and after 9 years of effort, finally got to the legislature.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. There are a lot of positives. Obviously, this is a great first step. I think things like being refundable means, as Dan had said, that you can attract outside investors. People who don't live in Minnesota can still qualify for the credit, which is great because, as we all know, we see a lot of successful people. They may move to Florida, to Arizona. Those people still have a tie to Minnesota, may want to come back and make investments. So I think that's a great step. Do you have concerns? Are there other things that you've heard that maybe people are a little bit more concerned about that we should be focusing on?
Sure. I guess two comments. One, if you look at the process and the qualification, your first reaction might be, that sounds too heavy. It's too much to go through. If you actually look at the elements and you look at the criteria, for example, what the qualifications are for a company having less than 25 employees, having less than $2 million in capital, having less than 10 years of tenure, having a certain level of wages. The intent here is to create companies that create a lot of good paying Minnesota jobs. So the process, I look at it actually positive because it does drive by investors away from it. This is really for serious angels who want to make profit, who want investment, and really help make the program a success. They'll go through the qualification process and make the program work. Probably the one thing I would say, though, to the negative side of it is just understanding that all employees need to have more than that 175% poverty level of wages plus benefits. Because that's an absolute, it is possible that companies with less than 25 employees will find they have one or two people that might be an assistant or someone that's paid lower. And that's something that's got to be dealt with. There's probably some ways that it can be dealt with, but the reality is if that's a valued employee, that's irrelevant. So that's something that's got to be dealt with. But in the grand scheme of things, considering the credit, et cetera, it's something that can probably be.
Jay, the one thing I would caution is that does include the value of benefits. So if a company spends $600 a month on health insurance and other benefits, that's another $4 an hour. So the cash wage may only be 14 something to get to a total wage of 18.55 or 45 every month.
And I think that doesn't apply to part-time employees or out.
It's prorated. It's based on full-time equivalent. So if somebody works half-time, they have to make the hourly wage, but have the annual wage. It doesn't apply to stockholders. I believe it's family stockholders. So the entrepreneur doesn't have to pay himself. Okay?
Outsourced employees such as those that you're subcontracting.
The law is silent on, for example, if you use a janitorial service, but we'll be watching for abuses. You know, outsourced vice presidents, we have a problem with that. I'm sure you're going to pay them more than $50, I hope. But the law doesn't prohibit it, but we would have a problem, I think, a legitimate problem with the legislature if it's abused.
Well, and at least in many startup companies, a 40-hour week is fairly recurring, as a legal language, it's annual wages. And so if somebody's looking for overtime on an hourly rate, that might be just.
It says
55 would include overtime?
1855 is the FTE equivalent. It's actual wages, so if people make $16 an hour but work a lot more hours, that works, it's not a problem. And I'm always reminded of what my father taught me about being an entrepreneur. He said the great thing about running your own business is you only have to work half time. You can pick whichever 12 hours you like.
I often hear that from entrepreneurs who say, I spend 100% of my time raising money and the other 100% of my time running companies.
Heard it described as a marathon sprint, full speed ahead, all the time. Are we ready for questions from the audience?
We have a few more. We'll get back, so if there are more specifics you'd like us to address, we can do that. I do have a couple of other questions. Dan, you had kind of co-chaired this Science and Technology Authority, and I know this, the Angel Tax Credit was one of the things that came out of that group as well. What other types of future programs would you envision potentially coming out of the Science and Technology? And maybe you want to give a little bit.
Yeah, as I said, I don't have a presentation about this, so that's the good news. But the idea behind the Science and Technology Authority is really to ensure that the state has a long-term vision and plan, and also a process to manage that plan. So really, it's not about an event, but a long-term process to ensure that we're doing the right things to encourage greater investment in science and technology, directional in key areas and opportunities, and then also overlaying things like the Angel Tax Credit, but also we're looking for capital fundings, R&D tax credit expansion, all kinds of things across the board, and being able to do that. The important thing about these various science and technology efforts that exist in lots of other states, so similar to Angel Tax Credits, we have comparisons, and the ROI that states are getting from major investments like the Angel Tax Credit can be 18 times, 20 times, really impressive ROIs for states that are putting billions of dollars into that. So I know we're doing some comparisons with Ohio and other programs as we get ready to implement, I guess, the next phase of the science and technologies. But what we want to know and continue to do is ensure that we're headed in the right direction. So it's made up of a public-private partnership, and there's a board involved from, I guess, across the state, educational institutions, businesses, entrepreneurs, all kinds of things, which are people that are actually directing where the science and technology effort should be, again, a long-term vision.
And the R&D credit that did pass, it was also in the jobs bill, increases the credit from 5% to 10% of the first $2 million of research and development. But the big issue is that it was extended to pass-through entities, so it's now available to subchapter S corporations, 308B co-ops, a variety of other pass-through entities that we hadn't had in the past. So we've got bigger and better. We'll be looking at, we need by the 1st of July to convene a meeting of the authority, which is commissioners in state government, and then to make appointments to the 18-member advisory group, some of which are very specific. The University of Minnesota will appoint 2 members, the NCU system 2 members, and the clinic a member, and then some are from categories, like 6 CEOs or their delegates or representatives of some high-tech authorities. We need to make those appointments by the 1st of August, so stay tuned to our website.